Hello! Now in today's video I'm going to be sowing these tomato seeds, and these are the seeds for the tomato grow along, and today is day one. I'm Gang Gang, welcome to the channel Gang Gang and Peanuts, two peas in a pod. Now anyone that's not familiar with this tomato grow along, which ultimately ends in a taste test, I made a video in which I offered seeds to anyone that wanted to join me, and they weren't just any seeds, they were rare and unusual tomato varieties, and they all came from Tomato Revolution. Some of the seeds are exclusive to Tomato Revolution, and those of you that requested seeds, I have posted them all out by now, and hopefully you have your seeds and you're ready to go. So let's get sowing, let's get these seeds going. Now, whenever I sow any seeds, I like to try and get everything ready before I start. So I have my compost ready, and the compost is a mixture of 2 parts multi-purpose compost and 1 part vermiculite, and I've also added just a dash of perlite, and that should be a nice light open mix, perfect for these tomato seeds. As well as the compost, I have my seed tray. I have the labels for the seeds, just in case I forget which one's which, because I've done that before. I also have the seeds, of course, and I have some plants over here, which I started a couple of weeks back, and I will show you them later on as well. Let's get to it. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get this tomato grow along going along. So the first thing is, let's get some of this compost into the seed tray, and as you can see, this compost is quite nice. If I squeeze it together, it's not dry, it's not soaking wet, it's perfect, I think. So some of this into here, and then we'll sow the seeds. So I'm going to start by sowing the seeds of the eagle smiley, and these seeds in particular are very, very small. They're tiny, in fact. I don't know if you can see them there, but they are tiny. And a mistake you can make when sowing seeds this small is to sow them too deep in the compost, and they'll never make it to the surface. So I'm going to sow these just on the surface, like that. Give them a little push, and I will cover those in a layer of vermiculite when the rest are all sown. So let me get on with that. You don't want to see me sowing all these seeds. So let me sow the seeds, and then I'll show you what I do next. Now the final seed that I have to sow is the accordion cherry. And I have sown a couple of these and they didn't germinate. And I only have 1 seed left. If I can find it in the packet, it's hiding in there somewhere, a tiny seed just there. This is my last crack with the accordion cherry, so hopefully it's going to germinate. If I can get the tiny seed out of this packet, come on. Can't even find it now. There it is near the top. Look at that. 1 tiny accordion cherry. And this is the one that I was most looking forward to growing. So I'm going to pop that right in the middle there. Add a label, and this is the last chance saloon for the accordion cherry. But hey, Let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. So that's those seeds sown, and the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to water them. I'm going to water them from the bottom. There we are. And this water is water. It's come from a rain butt. It's been inside overnight and it's warmed up to a room temperature. And what I'll do is I will let some of that water be absorbed into this compost. And when the surface I can see is starting to appear moist, I'll show you what I do next. So, whilst we're waiting for the compost to absorb some of that water, let's have a quick chat about tomatoes. Vegetable or fruit? Well, they are officially a fruit. And someone once said that knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. Now, some of that water has now seeped up, or whipped up through the compost and reached the surface where those seedlings are sitting. Now, at this point, you could cover them in compost and they should be perfectly all right, but I like to use a vermiculite. And I shall just give the surface of the compost a layer of vermiculite to cover those seedlings. Not too deep, just enough to cover them. And they should be perfectly happy. There's a bit too much there. They should be perfectly happy and grow on quite well. And I have some that I planted about 4 weeks ago. Let me show you those so you'll know in 4 weeks' time this is whereabouts your plant should be in the different stages of growth. Now, these are the plants from the seeds that I planted at the end of January, and we are now at the very end of February, beginning of March. So 3 to 4 weeks, give or take. And I'm quite pleased with how they are growing. Each and every one of them took about 10 days to germinate. And I was a bit worried at first because I thought none of them were going to germinate. In the past, when I've grown tomatoes, sometimes they're up in 5 days, sometimes 7, but 10 days, it was a little bit long, considering they were also in the propagator with some heat on. But they came through eventually. And here they are. And this is an eagle smiley. And I'm very pleased that those tiny seeds have grown into a very stout plant with some very strong looking stems, if you can see them. So that's the eagle smiley. I have the Great Scott, and only one germinated out of 2 seeds. But one is better than none. And this is also quite a strong looking plant. And I think it's going to be quite a big plant. We shall find out. I've also got a Dirty Curtie. And again, out of the 2 seeds I planted, one germinated quite a time before this one. I think this one here is probably a bit of a runt, so I should probably pull that out. And this one seems quite leggy in comparison to the others. But it's not a problem. When I pot it on, which will be in the next week or so, I'll just plant it a bit deeper, and that should help with the fact that it's a bit leggy, which is surprising considering it was under the lights. And I also have a Chuppa Chups. And again, 2 of them have germinated, one much later than the other one. And that actually looks like a really nice looking plant with the purple hues and the greens. I think that's going to grow into a really interesting looking tomato plant. And again, unfortunately, one didn't germinate. I sowed a couple of seeds, and that was the accordion cherry, no show. But fingers crossed, I've sown the last seed of the accordion cherry and it should come up. Now, when you're sowing your seeds, you need to be aware of the frost date. The frost date for me is the end of March. So I started these in January. So 6 weeks before my frost date. That means that once they are grown on and possibly ready to go outside, I don't have to worry about the frost killing them off. However, With global warming and climate change, you don't know what's happening from one day to the next. Also, if like me, you are growing your tomatoes in a greenhouse or a polytunnel, be very aware that at this time of the year, temperatures can fluctuate quite wildly. So you'll need to keep an eye on making sure that your greenhouse or your polytunnel doesn't overheat. Today in the greenhouse here, it has touched 26 degrees and it's still the morning. So I'm going to make sure I leave the door open a little bit for some ventilation. There we are. Excellent. So for me, that's the Tomato Grow Along 25 underway. The Grow Along is going along. Now remember that what I do is not necessarily the right way. It's certainly not the only way. It's just my way, and that's what I'm showing you. And some of you may have already started your seeds. Some of you may be starting soon. So good luck to everybody that's taking part in the Tomato Grow Along, which ends at some point towards the end of the summer with a taste test to see which of these tomatoes tastes the best. And also on the way, we can find out which one grows the best, which one looks the best, and have some fun with it. Now, if you're new to watching this channel and you'd like to subscribe, that would be fantastic. We'd love to have you along to join us and see what we get up to in the greenhouse, on the allotment, and in the garden. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up or leave a comment down below letting me know how you sow and grow your tomatoes. Anyway, I'm Gang Gang. This is Gang Gang and Peanuts, 2 peas in a pod, and as ever, until next time, take care.